Franklin, and today I'm joined with Pastor Paul, and today we're going to tackle our first Ask the Pastor question. And you know, Pastor Paul, we had a very good question asked of us. Is it okay for Lutherans to be cremated? What do we say about that?
Well, the short answer is yes. One of the things we need to remember is what God says to Abraham in Genesis chapter 3, and says to us all that it is from the dust we come and to the dust we will return. So the fact of the matter is all of us, whether we're cremated or not, are going to return to the dust. Maybe it happens quicker with cremation or more naturally, biologically, but eventually that's where we end up. It's also important to remember that there are many saints throughout the history of the church have died in fires and have been burned up.
John Huss.
John Huss, who was the predecessor to Martin Luther. And when Luther took his famous stand, he was afraid he was going to burn at the stake, just like John Huss had done years before. But we also think of the saints throughout history like Polycarp in the early church. We can also think of soldiers who died in battle who were Christians.
Yeah, exactly.
When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, a lot of men went up in flames in those Navy boats. And then we also think of people who've died from natural disasters, house burning up, and so on and so forth. So the real issue is, eventually our body's going to decay. It's just a matter of quicker or faster. One thing when I researched this, I found out that I did not know before, was that when Saul died, he died in battle, and his enemies hung him and his sons up on some form of woodwork or whatever. And this was to humiliate your enemy. But when the Israelites found out about this, some of the great men of Israel took their bodies down and they burned them and then buried the bones. So there's an example of cremation in Scripture. I have no doubt that, like Jonathan, who was one of Saul's sons, David's best friend, that he is in heaven today.
Exactly.
Even though his body was burned.
And either way, God's going to raise the dead, whether we turn to ashes in our casket, whether we're burned fighting in a war or a house fire, God forbid,
right,
and things like that. God will join our body together. Job 19 verse 26, after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. That's beautiful. Ezekiel 37 verses 6 and 7. God promises to restore the body, bone to its bone, flesh, sinews covering us. It's amazing. We can't limit God. And of course, from John chapter 5, 25 through 29, our bodies will be resurrected. God is going to resurrect our bodies no matter what form.
Yeah, there's going to come a time when God calls the dead out of their graves, and all of humanity will be bodily raised and will be judged. Those of us who have faith and show our faith through our life, we will rise to everlasting life, and others will rise to everlasting punishment.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if we believe in Jesus, it's always good news. It's always good news.
And the Lutheran Synod stance is, we have that Christian freedom. They don't condone or condemn.
Correct. And some of our churches have facilities where their loved ones' remains can
Yeah, the columbarium.
be stored.
You were just talking a little while ago about a couple of churches that have that, which so if they're allowing the burial of those ashes in those columbariums, it's okay.
That's correct. So the good news is, we believe in Jesus. Everything's going to be a-okay. He will take care of our bodies no matter how we end our lives end.
And from John 3:16, Romans 23, chapter 6, verse 23, Revelation 7, verse 12.
And they all tell us, for God so loved the world that he gave his one only Son, so that if we believe, we will have everlasting life. Again, we don't need to worry because the Lord will take care of us, body and soul.
Amen.
Thanks for the good question.
Until next time, we'll meet you again in about a month with another great question from Ask the Pastor.
Thank you.